Hey, welcome back to God's Glory and Men's Real Stories. I'm your host, Robert Moore III, and I'm excited that you would join us today for another great episode. If you're new to this community, I want you to know that you matter here and your story matters, no matter what chapter you're in. So today, I want you to sit back with a community that cares about you in hopes that you feel God's love as well as see God's glory in men's real stories. My special guest today is a brother that co-hosts the Let's Rap podcast, where they like to break down life's relationship woes, choices, and decisions with deeper conversations. So I'm excited to break down his story and converse with him about what God's doing in his life. So I'd like to welcome my brother Philosophikal to the episode.
Hey,
What's going
how's it
on,
going,
brother?
Rob? Hey, how you doing? How you doing,
I'm
man? Really
doing great,
appreciate
man.
it.
Doing great. So glad you could join me today, man.
Yeah, appreciate having me. Appreciate it
Yes,
having
sir.
me.
Yes, sir. So let's jump right in. I want to have you introduce yourself to my audience.
Hey, how you doing, everybody? I'm philosophical, as stated a couple of seconds ago. I'm the co-host of the Let's Rock podcast, man. I find myself being just a black man, just like the rest of you guys. Just try to relate to a lot of guys, but also go through my journey and go through a lot of transition periods as far as my past to now my present, but also going towards my future. So I really hope that my journey can really help others today and going forward. That my favorite saying is, "I am no greater than who you are today." So
Deep.
really appreciate you having me on and really gonna enjoy this.
Yeah, no, awesome. Where you from? I'm just curious, just for those who like to know where people are from.
Man, I'm in the DMV area. I've been here my whole life. Born and raised in the Maryland area, so
Okay.
people are aware of the DMV area. So
Yeah.
yeah,
Definitely.
yeah,
Awesome. Shout out to the DMV area.
yep,
So let's
yep,
let's jump right in, man. I mean, like I know you normally like to break down different things. You like to have conversations about different things, but today the topic is you, and we're kind of like just breaking down, who you are, what life has created in your past or currently,
yeah,
the truth is we like to sometimes jump out there into our future, but the truth is it's our future is unwritten and we don't know
yep,
what's going to happen, even though we like to predict it. But what's
yep.
been kind of like going on in your life? What's kind of a topic that you may uh, normally speak on where you're currently whether it be living it or you've lived it and you realize like, wow, there was a powerful story in that.
Man, I think it's both, right? Um, I think every day is a learning lesson. I wake up every day feeling like um, I'm better than I was yesterday, and can be even better tomorrow. So it's just one of those things where transitioning from a lot of bad habits, old behaviors, being married, um, planning a future, being able to just 9 to 5, having a podcast, being able to spend quality time not only with my wife but having that tranquility and peace within myself. You know what I mean?
Right. How
Um,
long have you been married, if you don't mind me asking?
oh man, it's going on just about almost 2 years now. We've been together a total
Okay.
of 5 years. So we got married during the COVID. We didn't have a wedding, so we got married right in the house right during the pandemic. So that was a transition period, as far as a lot of things were going on, but God kind of still stepped in and said, "Hey, this is the right thing to do," right?
Right.
So just being able to understand, still understanding who I am, who I'm trying to be, who I'm trying to become. And I know lately we've been speaking on a lot of ego and pride, and I relate that to myself because I feel like sometimes I've got to check myself, right? Um,
Mm.
I feel like I have to check myself. Feel like I have to, you know, um, my I'll give you an example. My wife always says I'm very strong willed when it comes to the initial reaction, right? And a lot of times when you react to something initially without some type of thinking or any just reacting out of maybe fear or anger or
Oh, emotions.
emotions. Yeah.
Yeah.
And sometimes, we don't understand. And I won't say we, I'll say me. Sometimes, I'm so quick to respond in a way that, it's like, my own emotions and not be a little bit more open. And then maybe that's something I should be working on a little more. Right.
Right.
So I feel like that's something that I'm transitioning into, doing a lot better within myself, responding a lot better instead of listen more instead of respond so quickly.
Mm,
So
that's so good.
if that's something that somebody is going through, you know, emotions to me can be so many things, man. It's not just anger. It can be fear. It can be just stress, frustration, man.
Yeah.
And I equate that to that's just life, man. I think
Yeah.
that's just life. That's just like you know. I think sometimes that when I become that way, is this truly who I am? And I have to really pull back and understand, like, this is just in the moment. And, sometimes I have to, that's when, in my opinion, God is really calling on you. God is really trying to talk to you. And are you going to pick up the phone? You know what I mean?
Hmm.
So I feel like, today, especially today, man, it's just maybe it's the weather. Mother's Day, my mom, passed away when I was 14. I think that got to me a little bit. And just being able to uh, understand who I am, understand where I'm going, and try to change some things within myself.
Yeah. No, that's good.
Yeah,
That's good. And every piece, even when it came down to like just recognizing, nobody can recognize our emotions like we can. Nobody can
yeah,
check them like we can. They can attempt to, they can say something about it, they can point it out to us, but it's in us recognizing in certain situations that we normally react to that is like, oh, okay, wait a minute. I noticed that every time she says that, I immediately get defensive
correct.
and I
Yeah,
fear
yeah,
her taking
yeah,
over.
yeah,
And so in
yeah,
this moment, I'm going to recognize that I respond the exact same way. I immediately lash out. And so it's as I like to always think about it's having that intelligence to recognize my emotion immediately kind of jumps. I
yeah,
want to respond before I even think about, hmm, how does that make me feel? I mean, like right now I'm a little angry that she would say that. But in that anger, why am I angry?
yeah,
Is it true?
yeah,
Do
yeah,
I feel that way about myself? Does she
yeah,
have a point
yeah,
and I'm not ready to face that point?
yeah,
Or is it
yeah.
just that like, you know what? I've never been ready to face that point because that point is a lot deeper than just what she's saying right now. There's so much more to that. And
Yeah,
I would have to go back and unravel all of this in order to even really be able to respond to that accordingly. So maybe my best response right now is a response of, I need to think about what you said and how it initially makes me feel. I think that my reaction wouldn't be something that I would be pleased with. Our family would be pleased with. God would be pleased with. There's, I think we both see videos all the time where we're watching people react, and it's like, look at them, man. Wow,
yeah,
this is like Jerry Springer in real life,
yeah,
and
yeah.
it's like I don't want to look like that. I don't want to
Correct.
respond like that. Like there's ways to where I can still get a resolution without like tearing up the whole scene.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I definitely agree. I think in my case, it's one of those things. I think, and I'm just speaking for me, and maybe this is for everybody, right?
Some things
Uh,
resonate with a lot of people. So yeah.
yeah, I think as a man, right, and we as men all go through it. I think it's one of those things where we're so power hungry. We so want to control everything, control our own destiny, control our own future. That sometimes when we're told by our significant others, family members, and friends, look yourself in the mirror, right? Um, sometimes, man, it's. I know I've learned through my marriage that I respect what she says, right? And I know a lot of things that she says come from her heart, and just, but a lot of it is opinionated. But I feel like sometimes as a man, it does bruise the ego. It does bruise the pride. Because I feel like as a man, I'm doing the right thing to say, I am the man, right? I am the guy making the decisions, right? So why do I have to alter, you know, who I am when, you know, this has been what's been working up to this point. But this is the thing,
Mm.
right? There are some aspects in my life and maybe in everybody's lives that let's just look at it, and you got a puzzle, right?
Right.
Um, you got 100 pieces, and out of those 100 pieces, you've only inserted 75 pieces. So you're dragging your feet on the other 25 pieces. Those are the pieces that are missing from the puzzle. And whether that be family, friends, the Bible, God's wisdom, your significant others, when you're got yourself in the right mind state, in the right place, right, mentally, and be able to accept that and be open to someone's criticism, the right criticism, right? They're gradually trying to help you insert those 25 missing pieces. So
Mm.
that's where the trust has to come in to say, you know what? I may not have understood what she said or how she said it, or, maybe she's right. Maybe I don't agree. But it comes down to, could this be could that be the 76th piece? You know what I mean? Could that be the
Mm-hmm.
77th? Could that be 5 pieces that could be missing? Right. My point is that I feel like I've got to open myself up to things that I wasn't necessarily used to before,
Right.
because I was always one, putting my image and my personality into other people, the way they cared, the way they feel, making sure they're good. But I always put myself secondary, right? But now I'm with somebody that's like, hey, uh, your feelings and emotions matter just as much as hers do. Not saying that marriage is perfect, because it's not. But what I am saying, it's a transition period to where it's like, marriage is a partnership. Marriage is a it's a communication. It's a communication group between you and your partner.
Right.
You know
But
what I
but like
mean?
think about it. When you stepped into it, a lot of times we almost have to go back and ask ourselves, okay, I know I liked who I married and how they looked and what they
Yeah.
brought to the table, but
Yeah.
do we trust them? Like and do we trust their, even if it's their opinion, do we trust their opinion enough to realize that they care enough about us to where their opinion is from a place of, I love you enough to say I need, I would like to see you do and look better in this situation, or respond to this better, or show up better. And so if I trust you, I would hope to say that what you're presenting will be from a place of, I love you and I want you to show up as the best version of you, even if it's not the version of you that you see currently in the mirror.
So this is the thing, right? And I said this, and we had a conversation on our podcast a couple of weeks ago. Let's take love out of it, right? Because love is kind of an emotion of a momentary feeling, right? Because you can love someone 1 minute and then the next you're upset. There are different emotions tied to it. So, in my opinion, I feel like you loving someone will always be there. You loving someone, that only changes when you make the decision to say, I don't love this person anymore, right? I feel like that's so misunderstood. But on the other hand of it is that trust, right? That's the real nucleus of being able. How do you trust someone to articulate and understand what they're saying is can leave you in a state to where you can think about it, be open to it, and apply it to your life. And one thing I can say is that what she's saying to me, not only my wife, my significant other, but family, friends, anybody out there that's maybe experiencing this is having a hard time maybe trusting their partner for whatever reason. And I'm not even talking about cheating, infidelity. I'm talking about like personality and actions, right? I think when you're with someone and you understand what they're doing behind the scenes when they're not with you, it's trust, right? If they're reading the Bible, if they're praying, you guys are praying together, you guys are reading together, you guys are doing the things. I've always been taught that, listening to someone else, right? That's valuable information, whether that may be right or wrong. If they're wrong, tell them why they're wrong. If they're right, add that. I'll even go back to the puzzle pieces. Add that piece to your puzzle, and that's something you can be missing, right? So I think trust comes down to I trust this person's actions. I trust this person's behaviors. And not only that, I trust that what we talk about in our household in confidence, it won't make me feel judged. It won't expose me. It won't put me in a place that's I'm in a bad light to the world.
Right.
Right.
But would you say that you put trust over love?
Yeah. Yeah, because trust falls under different categories, right? You gotta essentially trust your partner with money. You gotta essentially trust your partner with your secrets. You gotta essentially trust your partner with like um, your thoughts, your desires, your wants. Um, you know, that's a hard thing to do.
So what happens then when there's then something happens that comes and kind of like breaks that trust or wrecks the trust in a particular situation? What do you fall back on?
Man, so that's the thing. It's almost like, in my opinion, right? People know when they're breaking their trust based off of the decision they choose to make, the action they choose to make to break your trust, the trust you have in each other. They know because you're having conversations about it. You're having discussions about, hey, this is how I feel. This is what you feel. Let's meet in the middle. That's trust, right? That's an understanding. So when someone breaks that, they're choosing to break that trust between you. So I feel like that's where the real true test of a marriage, of a relationship, of a family, of friendship, to where one person that breaks that trust chooses to do something to break that trust. So what do you do? I mean, you either can choose to forgive. You can discuss why you felt that was the right decision for you, because ultimately, that was the right decision for you. It depends on what the action is, what the behavior is. I mean,
So,
it's just some things that's just unforgivable.
so then
I
where?
mean,
So yeah, no, I get exactly what you're saying. I get what you're saying as far as a trusting, but where does love play then? If it's all about trust, and where does love play in all of that?
so I think love is when I say I love someone, like I care for you, I care for your well being, I care about your health, I care about who you are, I care about where you're going, I care about like every desire and what you may have going forward, right?
Hmm.
And I feel like love, I, I feel like sometimes love is such an external thing. We fall in love with the external, the outside appearance,
Hmm.
that we we let that overshadow what love really is. Love is pretty much if if my wife got into a car accident, God forbid, knock on wood, she lost her job or a family member passed away, you know, it's that love and support that you got to be there for each other. That's what true love is. I think that's what long term, how does this person react to when life changing, life altering things happen? because they're going to happen in a marriage. They're going to happen in a relationship. They're going to happen in a friendship. How deep and high of level of love do you have for this person when those life altering things happen? Right? Are you going to be there? Are you going to walk away? Is it something that, because we as people, we do become selfish. We choose to love and like and take care of the things we like to take care of. But it's even harder to have love for someone, right? If you do or you don't, to be there for someone. And that's the part where I feel like love is very important.
I get what you're saying, but tell me this though. I mean, like,
Okay.
and do you feel like that's how God's love? That's how God's love looks for you. Like when it comes to how He loves you, do you feel like it's from a place of external feelings or external how you look or how you are presenting yourself today, based on like what His will or how He may want you to move towards things could be?
I do. I think it's internally and externally. I think
Okay.
internally God prepares you for what's going to prepare you for what's going to happen externally, right? I think God prepares your heart. I think God prepares your mind, and I think God, it's up to you to put the action into place. So I think lessons that we go through in life, whatever that lesson may be, I do think it's from God. Right? Whatever you're going through in life, whatever you've been through, whatever your past is, whatever your present is, and even your future, they're tests from God. Right? I think that's the test internally to either prepare yourself for, it's either you're ready for it or it's not meant for you to happen. It's not meant for you to have. It's not meant for it to happen, right? But let me take you on a detour. Let me put that 78th, 79th piece of the puzzle that you didn't feel like maybe was there initially, but it's there. It's just a way of him preparing you for it.
Yeah, but you know what? I'll tell you what changed because I used to feel honestly the same way you felt, as far
Okay.
as like it's a feeling, as far as external feeling. It's how you're like, I love you based on how you're making me feel.
Yes.
I love you based on the trust that I have for you, that I feel like I am comfortable with and I'm safe with.
Okay.
And I feel safe here. And if I feel safe here, then there's a
Yep.
level of trust and there's a level of love, right?
That's a part. I think that is a part of that too. But
Mm-hmm.
that safeness and that peace that you're speaking about initially is our decision based off of the person we're choosing to bring into our lives. So that initially does start with us.
Yeah, but you know what though? So and you know, and with even with you saying that there, I realized that if I try to control how love looks, the love I receive, the
Mm-hmm.
trust and all factor, then you're constantly in control. Like you have to be in control of that. But I'll tell you something. I read this one time and it changed my life. Like completely changed. It changed the way I viewed love. It
Okay.
changed the way I viewed marriages,
Okay.
relationships. And most people will recognize this coming out of 1 Corinthians 13. It
Okay.
said, love is patient and kind.
Yes. Yeah.
Love is not jealous or boastful or proud or rude. It does not demand its own way. It's not irritable, and it keeps no record of being wrong, which almost kind of like trumps out the whole trust thing. I trust you.
And to be honest, not to cut you off, I think those were some of the things I still kind of struggle with today.
Oh, yeah, no. Okay, so look.
Yeah.
So let me go ahead and prerequisite in that I believe every last one of us, men, women, children, we all struggle with every last one of these things, but this is how God loves and pursues us. So sometimes when we say, what would Jesus do, or how can I be more like him? It's almost like, okay, so you want to understand how he loves us? This is how. It keeps no record of being wrong. It does not rejoice after injustice, but rejoices whenever the truth wins out. Love never gives up. Love never loses faith.
Yep.
It's always hopeful and endures through every circumstance.
Yep.
And I mean, it continues to go on to explain it. But when I look at love that way, I realize that I was always loving based on conditions. And every last one of those were conditions
Yep.
were against or were the opposite of what I just read. Because
Yep.
if I'm not going to hold what you did back in 99 against you,
Yep.
if that's gonna hold weight every time I think about something and every time you say something, I'm like, yeah, but what about that time?
Yeah.
I'm already off. I'm already off the radar of where I'm supposed to like I'm not supposed to hold that against you. I'm supposed to forgive you, and it doesn't have to be a forget thing, but it's a matter of like that doesn't continue to carry weight based on the way I trust you. If I decide to move forward in love and trust in you, then a lot of what's keeping me out of that I have to let go of. I have to
And that's one
recognize
of
that
the
that is poison to this relationship.
and that's one of the hardest things to do.
Mm-hmm.
That's one of
Yeah.
the hardest things to do, right?
Yeah.
Having disagreements and arguments, that is a classic example of that. When you two don't agree, um, and let's say, for example, you're gonna have disagreements and arguments, and it happens again, right?
Mm-hmm.
What is the first response we usually do? And I know for me is to revert back to that initial disagreement and argument. Well, you said this. Well, you
Last
said
time
that.
you.
Last time, this is what happens. And and I'm glad you brought that up because I feel like I'm suffering from that sometimes, right? I
Mm-hmm.
feel like I don't come close to that meter of, you know, that's not necessarily forgiving or forgetting, right? Because I feel like I do hold. I think for me, and I'm not speaking for all men, but I can relate to a lot of men to this. It's like it's hard to forgive. It's hard to forget,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Yeah.
Because
We have
there
a
are
memory
things
for that reason.
exactly, and I know for me that memory is there's a reason why the same memory comes up. What are we to learn from this, right? How can we? And I almost sometimes question myself. This memory keeps coming up. What's the reason for it? Why is it coming up? And sometimes I view myself sometimes like certain memories. I'm doing certain things. I'm thinking about certain things. Like, why is it happening? Right? And I feel like sometimes under those circumstances, right? Through
Mm-hmm.
any circumstances, those conditions, when you say conditions, I'm very familiar with that because those conditions that through my previous relationships, what I would do is I would compromise who I was, right?
Mm-hmm.
To be a certain man that they wanted me to be, buy certain things that they wanted to buy, to paint myself and value myself as, you know, I'm willing to go through the circumstances again,
I'm gonna
right? Any
please you at all
circumstances,
costs.
please you at all costs. So it's like, let me get through this. Let me do this. But now it's like when you're with someone that's willing to go that extent with you, right? As a man, it leaves me in a place of potentially you don't need me anymore. You don't need me to be that it's almost like that Superman complex. You don't need me to be Superman. Shoot, you probably don't even need me to be Clark Kent, right? Because think about it. Lois Lane was think about it from a Superman perspective. Lois Lane was she was the Daily Planet. She was the one interviewing a lot of the politicians in that world, right? Metropolis. So it's almost like when you put like those conditions away as far as who we are supposed to be as a man, it's very confusing. It's very when you it's almost and I understand why sometimes like the divorce rate is so high. I don't condone it. I don't agree with it to where I feel like a lot of our men were stepping away and walking away so quickly by by doing the wrong things.
Well, let's not say men. I mean, we can say relationships fall apart.
Well, yeah, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Relationships. Well, relationships.
I mean,
but
it could be either one of them deciding that I no longer want to sit in this relationship. But in this case, like, because we're talking to a lot of men, you know, a lot of my listeners, even sometimes they are dealing with divorce that wasn't their choosing, but they played a part in.
Okay, and I apologize for that. Right? It's not always.
I just wanted to make sure we just broaden that, just so people are like, oh, I feel attacked.
Yeah, I know. Okay, so a lot of times, what happens is I feel like it's being broken to the fact that a lot of times we're not willing to work on the circumstance. Somebody can say, hey, I'm not willing to go that far of a circumstance with you, men or women. Mm-hmm. And I feel like sometimes we should ask ourselves why. Does that come under trust? Does that come under love? And are we not being patient? Are we not being, are we wanting it right now? And when we don't get it, the impatience comes in. So I feel like sometimes it's one of those things where it's like, man, I was that man that would go the far and distance, but compromised who I was and what I was doing and my personality and my health and my physical health, my mental health, for situations that I didn't get that in return.
Yeah.
So now I'm giving that what I used to, right, and previously, but I have to do it in a way that's, me. Yeah. And that's new territory.
No,
right?
I feel you.
Because as a man, sometimes it can almost feel like, am I needed? Am I wanted? Where do I fit? How do I fit? And those are conversations in relationships and marriages that are true tests to where if it's not really the significant partner's reason to tell you who you should be, but almost come to an understanding of how can we coexist with me being who I can be and you can be who you can be, but also feeling needed. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, I would say a lot of those conversations, a lot of those struggles or thoughts that you have, they're not even conversations, in my opinion, that you can have with that other person. They're conversations that a lot of them, in my opinion, we'd like to say I should have had those long time ago, but no, I recognize even in the moment with the struggles I've had and realizing that my past and what happened in my past had dictated who I am in my current future, in my present, I mean. And so because I didn't deal with how I felt about the people who I had pleased that took advantage of it, I was making sure this fort I built now would make sure that this current person can't do me the way those people did, instead of moving in a space of not only do I want to forgive those people for what happened, but I don't want to allow what they did to continue to be a memory that now makes me address the person in my life now the way I probably wanted to address them. Like I remember I forgot how. Wait, this is a different person. Shoot. Okay, so those are the things that, as men, we should have dealt with. That's why I realized how important the single season is. The single season is probably the most important part of anybody's life, because it's the part where you address you for what you experienced and deal with that. Don't carry it, because when you carry it, it becomes a part of the new relationship, and all of the hurt that person did, it becomes a part of this new relationship. And so the conditions that we put up with, what you were talking about, they're not even the conditions this person earned. But we carried it from that relationship into this one instead of addressing it. And so now, even when you talked about am I needed? Does she want me? Am I even important? Those are thoughts that run through our head to make us question whether these relationships are even. I think we were talking off the air about how sometimes we get tormented with thoughts from our enemy of our importance in our relationships, our importance, our role in our family, our role in our marriages, and we feel less than because we let the thoughts that roll in start to torment us and question whether we're even an importance of this.
Yeah.
When God has already told us, hey, look, you're to lead the family, but if you allow your mental health to start to make you question, like, I'm probably not even needed. She doesn't need me. I don't even know if I'm wanted here. Then you start to slowly exit your relationship
Yeah.
already just with those thoughts. You
Yep.
start to slowly, it's
Yep.
almost like that meme we see where he slowly goes into the bushes.
Yeah.
We do
Yeah.
that in our relationships because our thoughts are slowly pushing us back instead of us
Yeah.
addressing those thoughts, not with them,
Yeah.
but with ourselves, to say,
Yeah.
why is it that I feel that way? What happened that made me start to feel that way? What's happened in the past that made me feel that way?
Yeah. And for me, I felt like I had to do a lot of soul searching, right? A lot of like digging deep for me, right? I couldn't
Yeah.
respond the same way I did previously, um, that I do now, right? A lot of things had to change. Not saying that everything's going to change. There are times where, you do slip up. There are times where it's like, you do kind of revert back into like,
Mm-hmm.
oh man, it's a trigger.
Yeah.
It's traumatic.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes, you just gotta take a step back and really look within yourself and to say, what can I do to change it, right, within myself? Because I know a lot of times, I know with me, I've done this before, and pretty much a lot of people have. We blame our partners.
Mm-hmm.
We blame our family members. We blame our friendships to
It's
where the
easier.
way it's easier because we don't have to take responsibility. We don't have to look in the mirror and say, you know what, man, I shouldn't have responded that way. You know what I mean? And not saying that it's never gonna happen, right? There's
Right.
I think traumas and triggers are everywhere, right?
Mm-hmm.
From the day you were born to now. Any negative impact that you may have had from your younger years to now, I mean, it's just a way of how you deal with it, right? And that's why it's important to be able to just tell yourself, right? And this is one of the things that helped me. Remind yourself of who you are, where you're going, and remind yourself that, who you were yesterday is not who you are today, right?
Mm-hmm.
You're miles ahead of where you were yesterday to now, right? You're miles ahead. Just look at the things that have happened in your life, right?
Yeah.
Um, and I know affirmations have helped me a lot. Therapy have helped me a lot. Um, Being able to try new things, being open to those things. Not saying that I'm perfect. No man is perfect. No woman is perfect. No relationship
So
is
true.
perfect. But at the same time, not saying you've got to be, like, okay, yeah, we'll do that. Yeah, we could do that. No, but what I am saying is that have some time to yourself. You know, uh, do some reading. You know what I mean? Like I take listens to what other people are saying on podcasts, right? I try to make myself busy so I don't have those thoughts, right? I try to encourage myself to do things that are like make me feel like like, hey, it's okay. Because I know, man,
Right.
I used to beat myself up on doing things without my partner. I used to beat myself up on, when I'm by myself, when I'm in solitude or silence. It's like, man, I feel so uh, withdrawn,
Right.
because
Right.
my partner isn't in the house. You know what I mean? I used to beat myself up to say it's like, you know, why am I alone? Is this the way it's supposed to be?
Mm.
Um, so it's one of those things where it's like, you know, I had to learn that being alone, being able to read different things and TV, catch up on reading, and really developing I'm trying to really develop a closer relationship with God. Also, praying more, reading more, and really watching my tone and my tongue on some of the things that I'm saying. Really put. I don't
Right.
want to be able to put those things in real life perspectives.
Yeah, no, that's real. And I'll tell you, a lot of people. I love how you hit on so many different things there, from the
Mhm.
isolation
Yeah.
to even the keeping your mind busy, to keeping yourself busy, and different things like that. And I love to provide different perspectives, because sometimes you're right. First of all, there's a world full of podcasts, books.
Yeah.
There is so much content that you can digest, that you digest it all and be just one confused person, because this person said this and that person said that, and now I'm just
Yeah.
like, I don't know which one to follow. But I know that life is about perspectives, and everybody has an opinion and a perspective.
Yeah.
And I know in my life, as I started to deal with like past stuff that I didn't want to deal with, and thoughts that come into my head. So like you said, we kind of distract ourselves, whether it be with TV, books, great books, podcasts, and different things like that. But I feel like sometimes the quietness, the isolation, those moments where our thoughts are louder than everything else, so we try to drown them out.
Yeah.
There's a reason for that, and everybody is given an opportunity to address what we run from daily. Work is 5 days a week normally for most of us, for a reason, because in those other 3 days we're supposed to work on ourselves and not work on something that we're doing for somebody else. And
Yeah.
sometimes on a Saturday you may find yourself sitting there and it's quiet, and all of a sudden you get this thought, and you're like, oh man, I'm turning TV on, man, that's a lie. Or either we try to like
Yeah.
soak up like fake positivity. I'm good, I'm straight,
Yeah.
life's
Yeah.
good.
Yeah.
And it's like,
Yeah.
but it's not though. And it's not
It's
because
not.
your
It's
mind
not.
just said that, but it's because you are not addressing where those thoughts are coming from. And
Yep.
granted, you could be like, oh well, they're just from the devil. But like, no, a lot of times the devil doesn't even play a part in some of those thoughts. Those thoughts have been there for a long time. They keep
Yeah.
coming back because you haven't addressed where they came from, what their original origin was. And
Yep.
like you said, trauma, like it starts when you're younger. So a lot of those thoughts are as old as 20 something years old, depending on how old you are.
Yeah.
They could have aged it with decades on them, where you're still feeling that way because you didn't address those in those moments where you distracted yourself from them. Why do I feel like I'm not good enough?
Yeah.
Where did that come from? Who told me that? I can tell myself I am good enough right now, but like if I go back and figure out where that thought came from, I may be able to change the story and understand I told myself that because somebody else told me. That
Yeah.
person always used to like tell me I would never be good enough. But the truth is that that person was pushing their own hurt and their
Yeah.
own insecurities on me.
Yep.
And if I can go back and recognize where that came from, I can then change the story to say, you know what? I was always good enough. I allowed somebody else's hurt to dictate how I move now. And sometimes you can only do that in those quiet times that we distract ourselves. I distracted myself. So you're talking to a distractor for like for like years. Like I got decades of
Yeah.
distracting myself. I mean, I'm
Yeah.
talking about with everything.
Yeah.
Like you name it, I did something to, and I don't even watch TV. So imagine the things I was doing to distract myself. But I realized it was when I finally had to sit with myself and there were no distractions there. I had to address and go back and sit with everything that I had told myself, every thought that was there.
Yeah.
And it's not comfortable. Yeah, that's why we distract
It's
ourselves.
not.
But it's
It's
but
not.
it's what's best for us, regardless what relationship we're in. Like
Yeah.
it's almost like what you said. I'm now no longer taking the past me into the future.
Yeah.
I'm going into the future now, recognizing not only who I am, but who I'm not.
Yeah.
Like that stuff is I'm going to bury that stuff, because where it came from and why I've carried it for so long is from a place of like, yo, that was a story I told myself because I was surviving life. My mom told me I wasn't ever going to be any good. My dad told me that I would never amount to anything. So I took that with me. And you know what? Sometimes in survival, we just go along with it because you know what? I'm connected to this person to survive. My aunt told me I would never be any good. But when I go back and look at her life, I understand that, you know what? It wasn't about me. It was her
Yeah.
hurt. It was her
Yeah.
brokenness. It was what she experienced. And so now she's just pouring all that on me. Like, yeah, because I've never been nothing. That's the part she never said. And so in recognizing that, it's like, yo, wow, I allowed you to label me. I allowed you to rent space in my head. and your thoughts
Yeah.
and what you said rented so much space in my head that I should have charged you for this rent for the past 15 years. Like, I should have charged you
Yeah.
because your thought carried space in here, and I still feel that way about myself, but no longer.
Yeah.
I'm not going to let what you said, because after a while you forget who said it. Oh,
Yeah.
that didn't come from you. You didn't tell yourself that you were no good or that you weren't needed. That
Yeah.
came from somebody else.
Yep.
So like it's it and that even goes back to like what I was saying about love, like because all that stuff pollutes what love really is, and in my opinion,
Yep.
it pollutes like how you move in love, because trust, we're imperfect. You said it yourself. We're imperfect.
Yeah.
We make mistakes. We're going to make mistakes. We're going to do things that people are going to be like, why would you do that?
Yeah. Yeah.
Right. But
Yeah.
like, it's in like recognizing that, like, and even though you did that and that hurt my feeling, I still love you
Yeah.
unconditionally. Now let's figure out how we can work through this.
And I will add to that. That's the thing as far as, I think people put a hard limit on their conditions. They draw the line, right?
Mm.
And I feel like we've air quoted that, named it boundaries. And by all means, right? I agree with, there's a limit of what we can take as a person. But I think the problem is that we as people, we can try to control other people's actions
There it
by
is.
putting boundaries around people instead of actionable boundaries around us. Like if someone, like for example, right? You spoke of unconditional love, right? That love should be unconditional until such as, right? Let's speak on it. Somebody cheats on you, right?
Mm-hmm.
You couldn't control and tell that person, no, you can't go out and do that. They made the choice to do that,
Mm-hmm.
right? You only can control how you react to it and how you are going to address it going in it even further. If you're making the choice within you to say, hey, we're going to work this out, you've got to tell yourself, like, hey, I'm going to do what I can on my end to make sure that we can, mend this, lack of trust, break of trust, this intrusion and breakdown of love, right?
Mm-hmm.
There's got to be an agreement that that other person is willing to do the same thing for you.
Yeah, but you can't. That's just it. You can't control them.
You
Like
can't
like
control
that.
that.
That's
You can only
that's
go by what they're telling you.
so this is and so now we're going into the realms where I say, okay, this is where I rely heavily on God to assist me in situations where I may even tell myself I'll never love this person again. I'll never
Okay.
see this person the way I saw them before
Yep.
based on what they have done. I myself can't do it. God, I'm going to need your help if this is where you want me. If this is what I, because the truth is let's say I decide I can't see you the same way again. I can't, because of your broken trust and what you have done. I love you. I'm working on forgiving you, which is something that's important.
Yeah.
But my boundaries say that that trust has been broken, and I don't know if my boundaries will allow me to be back in this relationship again.
But let
But
me reverse that
mhm.
based off of my experience, not to cut you off.
No, go
I've
ahead.
I've done that, but in reverse, I I made it. I think the signal you're sending is it's okay. It was okay for you to do that to me, right?
No, not at all. That's not at all. Because
But
see, the thing about it is, if we don't address this, then it's almost like a slap on the wrist. Hey, don't do that again. No,
but that's my
let's
point.
just.
I went into it not addressing it, not setting a
Mm,
boundary for me, not
mm,
saying like, hey, you know, I'm basically saying I love you to a point where, you know, I forgive and forget what you did, but I need you to address it to the point where this won't happen again. And I didn't do that.
well,
I,
what's the best answer to broken trust, broken hurtful actions? What is the best response to it? It's normally
So
not, I'm
the best
sorry.
response, no, it's not. No. It's no,
Go
no,
ahead.
it's
I
not.
know
I'm
you're about to
sorry.
say it.
It's not. I apologize.
Mhm.
You need to let me know why you chose. I want to know why you chose to make this decision. And
But you,
let's leave it at the cheating thing.
but
Why did
sometimes
you?
that can't be answered. What if that
But
can't be answered?
that's because they choose not to answer it, right? Because they can always say, well, what's the classic answer? You're not treating me right, And my response to that is, did you communicate with me on how you want to be treated? You don't spend enough time with me. Did you communicate with me like, hey, I need your time. Like, this is what I would like to do. This is how I would like to do it. Give the person a chance to try and also it builds trust. I mean, it builds even more of a trust also, right? If
Well,
you can communicate, go ahead.
when I will say this: a person responding to why they did it doesn't change their behavior. I tell people the best
Well, because they've
response
already done
to
the
"I'm
action.
sorry," yeah,
Yeah, they've
and
already
then
done
they
that. So
change
it's too
that.
late. It's too late. It's too late now. But
So the best. Go ahead.
I'm speaking in terms of there's always a period of either people are at a crossroad. It's either like you said, they're slowly exiting out of the relationship, or they're slowly preparing to make damage to the relationship. It's two sides to the coin here.
Sabotaging it. Yeah.
Sabotaging it, right?
Mhm.
And people have ways of I just feel like we can handle it a lot better if we communicate it to what we want out of a relationship, friendship, families, dating, marriage,
Set
just
expectations.
set it. Not only, but setting expectations to me is sometimes it could be one sided. Maybe my expectation may not be the same as yours. How can we meet in the middle? So
That's
it's
fair.
like, yeah,
But
yeah, yeah. Go ahead.
But why do our expectations have to be the same? Like I could want you to do dishes every day, and you could just want me to wash your car. Like they don't have to be the same. Like our expectations are what we need from the relationship, not what the other person needs. They should voice what they need if they know what they need.
But let's keep it real, right? It's one of those things where we're human, right? We're men.
Mhm.
I mean, there are women out there that'll say the same thing. Hey, if you expect this out of me, what am I getting in return? Right?
Well, then that's
Some people,
transactional.
not just transactional. Well, yeah, it can be categorized as transactional, but like you said, let's put it in terms of washing the dishes, right?
Hmm.
Some people don't do that now. So if there's an expectation that you want me to do something that I'm not doing on a regular basis,
Hmm.
it's almost like I need you to reciprocate that. I need you to reciprocate by it's got to be an even playing field.
But
And
if
this
you
is go ahead. And I'm not speaking for myself. I'm just speaking for the potentials, right?
Yeah,
Of
no.
why.
And you're right. I agree with you. I 100% like reciprocity sometimes looks different to everybody, but it's
Correct.
almost like if I'm doing this, what are you doing for me? But but
Exactly.
but tell me
Exactly.
something. Okay, so
Okay.
so then I always have to go here and I tell people, what are you doing for God based on the blessings that He's provided you?
A lot of people can't answer that.
I know. And
A
you know
lot of
why they can't answer that?
a
Hold on, I'm gonna
lot of
tell you
people
why
can't
they can't
answer
answer that.
because
Because
they
the
don't know
truth is,
God.
he's more importantly, he's never come back to you to be like, I need the same reciprocity. I
Yeah.
blessed you with a car. What are you blessing me with? Like
Yeah.
if like a lot of us are like, and I can speak for myself. I
Yeah.
want to be Christ like, but at the end of the day, if I'm expecting you to like, I need you to love me or I can't love you, then you know what, that the truth is that imagine if God was like, well, if you don't love me, I don't love you, and so understand your life is like the blessings and everything I have planned for you, scratch that. But no, he still continues to love us even when we don't seek after him, even when we don't talk to him, even when we don't give him time. So my direction now and the way that I move it is that I'm going to love you regardless.
Correct.
Now, I would like to feel as though the reciprocity comes from the actions, not because of what I'm doing, but because you recognize how, even though you're not showing me love, I still unconditionally continue to show you love. I still continue to show up. I still continue to meet your expectations, even though you're not meeting mine. And
But
eventually there may be boundaries that say, hey, look, you know what? I don't feel like that. But you know what? The best way to show a person how you want to be treated is in how you treat them, because
correct.
there's a
But
lot of
but
people that go ahead. Sorry.
but I was gonna say that. But like going in the beginning, that's a hard line for some people, right? That's a very hard line to where if
Why is
you're not
that?
treating if you're by the way they've done that same thing to people they know in advance, and in some respects God has told them this is not the person for you.
But it's
But
because of your past, right? It's what you've
correct, yes,
experienced. All right.
yes,
So
yes,
once again, we back to the
yes,
past again.
yeah,
Like I
yeah,
said,
yeah, yeah,
it always is going to take you back to what you've experienced.
yeah,
Everything that we go through comes normally connects to a past experience. And so as long as we continue to let those past experiences linger and
yeah,
control us, the
yeah,
past controls us.
yeah,
We're,
yep,
we're controlled by what we've experienced. It's
yep,
not until we face what we've experienced and recognize what that did to you,
yep,
how that played in your life, what that told you now going forward in relationships, what that told you when it comes to going forward as a father, as a
yep,
mother, or whatever. It,
yep,
if you don't address that, then you live out of your past forever.
yep. And that's one thing that I will say, in as far as my experience, that has transcended me even further today. And that's why one of my favorite phrases that I came up with: "I'm no greater than who you are." Right?
Mm,
I had to make a it's almost like for me, I had to make a line in the sand. Right? After my previous relationships didn't work, you know, I went through a lot of hurt and trauma and suicidal thoughts and negativity, and really at a breaking point for me, right? And I'll never forget that I sat down and I said, you know what, I'm making a hard line in the sand right now to say, and I prayed about it, and I said, hey, look, you know, I'm leaving the past to the past. I'm not going to bring my baggage. You know, it's almost like I was getting on a plane with no baggage, right? Just me, no luggage, right? And, I prayed about it. I continue to pray about it. And I tell myself, you know what? And that's why a lot of times I think that I've gotten a lot better, because I have to catch myself sometimes.
right. No,
I have to
definitely.
catch myself sometimes,
Definitely.
because it's like, you
Definitely.
know, my dad will tell you, I have friends who've been married 10, 15, 20, 30 years, and they'll tell you, man, sometimes your partner can really, there's going to be, frustrating times,
Most
that
definitely.
that can remind you of, you know, triggers, traumas, right? And you
Most
really
definitely.
have to, remind yourself, like, this is just in this moment, right? So I had to continuously tell myself and make a hard line in the sand that, man, I can't bring a lot of my traumas and my past, right? And to say that I did that has really helped me today. Why? I feel like I've had a better relationship with my father, right? We're talking more, communicating even more, on an everyday basis, right? Uh, Being able to just open my mind to different books, right? Different opportunities. Being able to, um, sometimes, man, I would have a hard time of like, you know, I would go out, man. I wouldn't say anything to anybody, man. I go out now, man. I want to just say, hey, how you doing? And I always make it a good point, man. And I've learned this to tell people, have a good day. You know what I mean? Just the habit of really helping people and talking to people, and really, you know, respond positively. And I know that's always cliche, but I always respond in a way that doesn't react angrily. You know what I mean? And I feel like sometimes, we do respond that way, right?
Yeah.
And I know I have firsthand, but
hmm
like I said, I've had to catch myself, and I can honestly say today, I have learned a lot of things that just based off of that day, just making a hard line in the sand. You know what I mean? And I attribute that a lot of that to my wife, really working with me, really asking me the questions, really, um, I did a lot of writing too, man. Just,
Mm,
just
man,
writing a
that's
lot of
good.
things. Yeah, writing a lot of things that I wanted to do, and a lot of things just happened, from God to better a lot of things that were going on in my life. Like I said, better relationship with my father, being able to have a better relationship with my family, really changing my mindset as far as fatherhood, um, being able to help others, without feeling like, I, you know, without feeling like, responding negatively to a point where it's like, what for? Um, really, really waking up with ideas and opportunities, thinking. But there's always things I can work on, man. I really want to work on a better relationship with
Always.
God, reading the Bible a little bit more. I do feel like maybe I need to incorporate a little bit more church within my household, praying with my wife a little more, reading the Bible with her a little more, devotions, um, and doing a little bit more internal changing within me. Because, sometimes, you know, eh, we're human,
Yeah,
so,
no.
you
Yeah,
know
you're
what I
right. You're
mean?
right. And there should be no shame in that. I mean, like
Yeah.
once it's one thing to recognize it, it's another thing to just be like, I don't need it. So look, you know
Yeah.
what? I would love to end this episode just
Yep.
praying about that, bro. I mean, like
Yep.
if that's cool with you, man.
Yeah. Yeah. Definitely, man. Always.
Awesome, awesome. Well, Lord, hey, look, we come to you today, Lord, just knowing that there are a lot of men that feel the same way that Phil feels. There are a lot of men that are fighting through these same struggles, Lord, and working through areas of their life that they don't have answers for, but they're really trying to feel through it with sometimes still carrying like maybe whether it be past pain, past trauma, or whatever it may be that may play a large part in their story even when they don't recognize it, Lord. I pray that you work in these moments, Lord, to continue to soften our heart as men, continue to work in our lives to recognize that as men, the stereotypes that have been put in place for us to continue to be the men of our houses, to be the men that you called us to be. Allow us to see how you move as a man, Lord, how you move with a heart to move in directions where, you know what? A lot of your children may not seek you. A lot of us may not spend time with you. A lot of us may just be moving through life, really trying to make things happen, but we lose track of what you could do in these situations that can really truly be able to bring out the good in us, Lord, to bring out the love in us, to bring out the care in us. So I pray that you continue to work in our lives to allow us to see past what we've been through, to see what you want to do in us as we move forward, allowing us to approach people with the love you come to us with, allowing us to love ourselves the way you love us, allowing us to continue to be able to be the men you saw us to be and not the men that we've been told we have to be. So work in us, Lord. Continue to be that father we need, the father that provides us the wise counsel. And we pray this in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen. Thank you.
Awesome. Yes, sir. Yes,
Thank
sir.
you,
I appreciate your vulnerability, man. I
man.
appreciate this conversation today,
I
bro. And it
appreciate you
was
having me on. I appreciate being able to take the time. This was very great conversation, man, and being able to have a real conversation to be vulnerable, man. Really, thank you.
yeah, these are important. I tell men all the
Yeah,
time, man. These
yeah,
conversations, they don't have to be on the podcast, but we need to find that community, which is why, I constantly pray for God to send men community, that community they
yeah,
need. Maybe not the
yeah,
community we've had, but the community we need to be able to talk about more than just sports, to talk more
yeah,
about things that matter, the things that are like below the surface, the things that are really starting to really wear us down so that maybe
yeah,
we can start to bounce off each other's perspectives and
yeah.
see things from a different lens than just the lens we've looked through. And
And
so I know he's doing that in our lives. That's really why this podcast was birthed. And I'm excited to have a conversation, regularly with men who, as all of us, are imperfect and seeking
yeah,
him,
yeah,
but also
yeah,
seeking to understand how we can approach life, like you guys do over at Let's Rap Podcast, to
yep,
understand the questions and understand the perspectives and understand how we should address the decisions we come to. So I appreciate your time today, bro.
Thank
I
you. Thank you
appreciate what you
always.
guys are doing on your platform,
Yeah.
and welcome you. And as I was telling even your co-host Jay, I
Yeah.
look forward to future conversations with you guys, even
Definitely.
off the air,
Definitely.
just around like
Definitely.
different books and stuff we're watching, just to
Yeah.
be each other's
Yeah.
community.
Yep.
So
Yep. Definitely.
yeah,
Definitely. I
bro,
think
I
that's very
appreciate it.
important. Thank
Yeah,
you.
yeah,
Thank you so
yeah.
much.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. And so, hey, look, I want to thank all my listeners for coming today, really just being able to sit with us through these conversations, really be able to pull something. I know there's a lot of moments where we sit there and we're like, me too, or like, wow, that I feel that. And so hopefully these conversations allow you to be able to almost just be a part of this, to where you can maybe take something from this, maybe go back and look at things from a different lens. And so we're blessed you're here. We appreciate you coming and joining, and we'll see you on the next episode. All right.
We appreciate you listening today and hope that if you enjoyed this episode, you'll like and subscribe and also listen to past episodes. We hope to bring you great future content as well. Please comment your thoughts on this episode, as well as leave any prayer requests below so that this community can pray alongside you. Also, don't forget to follow us on Instagram, Twitter, TikTok, and Facebook at God's Glory and Men's Real Stories.
Brothers, we understand how the thoughts of even facing your own past and current story and the pain and hurt that come along with this is no easy task. But you're not alone, as you hear in these episodes. Nor has God forgotten you or left your side, as He's in it with you, fighting alongside you through the storms of life. He loves and has already forgiven you, no matter what you have done, and He wants a relationship with you. Your healing, freedom, and growth are important to God and to us as well. Maybe you're considering giving up or need someone to talk to. Here are a few resources that exist that we hope can shine a light into that dark place you're in. The National Suicide Prevention Lifeline number is 1-800-273-8255. If you need support but are not in crisis, consider reaching out to a warm line with individuals who would love to talk with you. Speaking to someone on these calls is typically free and confidential, and run by people who understand what it's like to struggle in life. Find a local number by going to warmline.org.